My name is Kevin Gyberg. I'm the owner of B2 Software. I generally work as a consultant for businesses who want to make their technology more modern and get their systems up to date, generally involving getting more customers, attracting, retaining customers, operations aspect it fits in that mix as well. Today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, more of an overview. We're not going to deep dive into anything specific, but we are going to talk about a couple of aspects, why businesses are implementing and using AI. Some of the definitions to get everybody's head around this a little bit more without the proper, there's a lot of technology, a lot of new terms these days when it comes to AI, and unless you have a kind of an understanding of the basics of what those terms are, you can get lost pretty quick. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what businesses are doing in terms of deployment. What things are, generative AI is something that a lot of people are familiar with, which is essentially you ask AI a question and returns an answer, but we're going to get into more of the details of how it's used in some businesses, especially larger scale businesses, but also a lot of the technology and those that know-how is trickling down into businesses that are medium and small size. And then we'll get into some of the do's and don'ts, and then some of the tools. So we're actually going to be using these AI tools live for very specific functionalities and to kind of expand your understanding of what is possible out there, and maybe some of these things you certainly know about, maybe some you haven't heard about yet. So we're going to get into that. So just a couple of reasons why businesses are adopting AI. It's not just about asking questions and getting answers. There's a lot more to it. Businesses have implemented AI see a 25% increase in customer satisfaction. That comes from Salesforce, a very large, very successful company. AI can automate up to 45% of current work activities from McKinsey Research Institution. And we'll get into some of those details later on. Companies using AI for sales can see a 50% increase in leads and appointments. And how that works is, we'll go into a little bit further as well, but a lot of it has to do essentially taking those cold leads and turning them into warm leads using AI chatbots and responses and stuff like that. AI is enabling businesses to personalize customer experience at scale, driving higher engagement and loyalty. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. AI is no longer, and this last part is very important, as if you're a business owner or if you're trying to expand your business, you might say, hey, how do I remain competitive in this landscape? If other companies are using AI and I don't use AI, what might happen? What if I'm an innovator and I actually use AI better than the competition? What might happen? So that's something to think about as well. We can kind of see this advent of AI, which is a real game changer in a lot of regards, as kind of a sea change. It's kind of like what happened when the internet first became a thing. Some company says, we'll never use this, this is ridiculous, it's a fad, or what have you. And why would we want to put time and effort into this? Well, look what happens today. If you didn't adopt the internet, selling stuff online, offering services online, banking online. Imagine you're a bank and you decided not to implement online activity. You wouldn't be around anymore today. And that certainly happened. This is one of those types of changes. Okay? Keep that in mind. Like I said, we're going to get into some definitions here. And I'm going to go through these pretty quick. And if you do have any questions or need any clarification, let me know. But I'm trying to keep this to an absolute minimum for the purposes of this conversation. Artificial intelligence, what even is that? It's a simulation of human intelligence processed by machines, in other words, computer systems. Machine learning is a subset of AI that allows systems to learn from training data without the explicit programming. Generally, what has happened in software systems, is you have a software developer who's doing all this kind of stuff, right? AI can actually take over that to a certain extent because it figures it out by itself, okay? A model, okay, a large language model. We've all heard that, right? So we're going to break this down. A model is, just for purposes of a demonstration, a model is essentially saying, I know how to speak English. Okay, that could be an example of a model, okay, that I would put into my computer system. Another example might be, let's say you're like a human baby. That's a good analogy to use, all right? I know how to eat, okay? That's essentially a model of some type. It's not a language model, but it's a learned model with the output being, I can now crawl, okay? That's what a model is, okay? And another one might be along the lines of, I know how to talk now, okay? And that is all put into that machine learning system that can actually start performing more and more things. And the next one might be, I know how to speak French, okay? So all of these things can be thought of as like that. Each of these are individual models that can be added to a machine to perform certain functionalities. And that's important to understand because you might be using the wrong model, okay? If you're trying to speak English, but you're using the French model, we might have a problem here, okay? We might get unexpected results or total gibberish. There's a lot of models out there. You know, you may have heard of like deep research or some of these other additional models, GPT-4 and the variations on top of that. So the model is important. That's one of the pitfalls. You gotta make sure you're using the right model. Language model, which I just described. Large language model is essentially a small language model would be like, I know how to do the basics of only English. A person who's new in the, an English-speaking country, I only know a few words. That's a very basic one. But if you know the entire unabridged English dictionary and you can call it up at will, that's more of a large language model. So it's easy to understand if you think of this in human terms to a certain extent, because human baby has very few models involved, but adds those models as they go, okay? Generative AI is very simple. We all know what that is. It generates something, okay? You feed it some input, you say, hey, I want this. It can generate music, text. Text, of course, is the most popular one, but images, we've all probably tried some of that. Let's create an image of whatever, and boom, it's amazing. Even software code, we're a software company. We use AI all the time. It's absolutely amazing what we can do in a short period of time now with that. AI chatbots, we know what that is. A lot of times it's, for instance, almost all, if you go into your bank, you're going to have a chatbot. And sometimes you're talking to humans, sometimes you're talking to an AI chatbot, sometimes you don't even know, all right? Bias in AI, this is a super important one, okay? And we're going to get into some of this later on. System errors in AI, and we've heard of things like, this ties right into the next one, which is hallucinations. Systematic errors in AI that result in poor outcomes, often due to incorrect, incomplete, or biased training data, okay? So again, back to, let's say, that baby example. Let's say you only use certain words in the English language when that baby was growing up. That would be incomplete data, or used even worse, the wrong words to describe something, okay? If you called a car a bicycle or a bicycle a car, that baby's gonna be mixing those two up, okay? AI is the same way. It doesn't know anything. The only thing it knows is what it's taught, okay? If you teach it the wrong stuff or you leave certain things out, it's not gonna give you the right results. And you might say, why does this matter to me? I just go on to Perplexity or Google's AI or whatever and ChatGPT and type it in. Well, there's a subset of that which we'll talk about in a minute, okay? Any questions so far? Nope. So let's talk about AI deployment. This is a new world. There's a lot of companies out there who are kind of saying, wow, what are we doing? What is our strategy for this? Is this going to cost us a lot of money? Could it save us a lot of money? Could it get us a lot more customers? All these types of questions. And this was results of a research study. And they were talking about big executives and people in IT and all this kind of stuff. What were some of the reasons that deploying AI? Reduce cost is a huge one. Okay? Sometimes if you can say, hey, we have this huge group of people who are doing customer service, and it's kind of inefficient, we have to train them a lot of times, maybe we can use a chatbot instead to reduce that massive number of people that we have to have for that business function, and that can reduce costs. Improved customer service is a massive one. Of course, just like the example I just used with the customer service reps, improving customer service by using chatbots where it's available 100% 24/7, and the answers are immediate, is a big boost to your customer service. Okay, automation, I'm not going to go through all these in detail, but essentially you can kind of get the idea. Automate key processes, gain competitive advantages, of course, a huge one. Labor skill shortage, sometimes there are specialized jobs that need to be filled, but there's nobody available. You can use AI to supplement some of that, which we'll talk about. In technology, identify threats more rapidly, such as somebody's trying to break into your network. AI can go, wow, that looks like a threat. It's coming from this IP, which is located in this country, and blah, 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 and this is the activity, and shut that down. So there's amazing stuff that is done in addition to just generative AI. Okay, this is an interesting one as well. This is also from the same research. Where is it being deployed? Obviously, you can see the dark blue. IT is using, the numbers are kind of flipped, 71% of companies are using AI in the IT department right now, which makes a lot of sense. Just like the example I've just provided, threat detection, that kind of stuff. The days are gone where you have some guy hanging out looking at all the computer logs and access logs and trying to figure out if somebody's breaking in. Tools now exist these days which have that knowledge of what a break-in looks like and can shut that IP address down to protect the network immediately. Has nothing to do with generative AI, right? It's a completely different model of what AI is being used for. And so if you're thinking all I need to do is leverage generative AI, you're kind of missing the boat on a lot of things, okay? You gotta think broad. You gotta think sky's the limit. What am I doing these days in my business where I could potentially use some type of AI and figure that out, okay? You can see human resources. There are AI tools out there now that if you're looking for an employee, those AI tools can actually accept the resumes, compare them next to your criteria, maybe it's a certain educational level or number of years experience, and the AI will actually take a look at what your requirements are and what that resume says. And if you had 1,000 resumes, it could say, these are awesome fits, and these are not fits at all. As a matter of fact, don't even bother looking at them because they don't meet the qualifications of your job. So you can imagine that from human resources perspective, that's a huge time saver. Of course, these things aren't perfect yet, so caveat. Examples of AI in business other than human language-based generative AI. Again, generative AI is using AI to generate something, a response of some type. Images, text, whatever. Okay, even music, code, etc. This is a big list, but I am going to just hit on a couple of them. I'm going to use some company that we all know, which is Amazon. Who shops on Amazon? Almost nobody here. And you know, we don't endorse any company specifically. I'm just saying this is an example of a company that has been using AI and using it well for many years, and we don't really even realize it sometimes. AI has been around for decades. I met a lady recently who, over 20 years ago now, majored in college in artificial intelligence.
Wow.
And I could go into some of the details about that, but AI was one of those hidden secrets for a lot of companies until ChatGPT came along and exposed its incredible powers to the general public, okay? And then everybody had to catch up. That's why there's this big wave going on. It's not that it's brand new. It's just that, and also there are some certain advancements in technology such as computer processing power, storage, retrieval that have certainly allowed this large language models to actually function the way that they do, very efficiently, very quickly. So let's talk about that. Just think about Amazon, what they do. Customer segmentation, dividing customers into groups based on shared characteristics for targeted marketing. If you buy a lot of certain products off of Amazon, guess what? You've been put into a target market, okay? They know what your interests are. They know what you search for. They know what you click on. All that is saved. It's data, okay? Predictive lead scoring, using it to determine the likelihood of a lead converting into a customer. That's good for all of us. If you're trying to advertise, do some marketing, do some sales, and you want to find out, are these customers actually going to potentially become a customer? Are these potential customers going to become a customer or not? I'm not going to waste my time on a bunch of people who are just, kicking the tires, for instance. Churn prediction, that's a big one too, especially when you're talking about, let's say, SaaS products. How many people are going to stick around and use my product and who's likely to leave? Netflix does this. You might get additional communications from Netflix when you haven't used it for a while, or a lot of those emails. That's based on churn prediction. Oh, wow, they're not using my service anymore. They're paying for it, but not using it. They're going to leave me pretty soon. I need to grease those wheels a little bit. Personalization, this happens to us all the time. If you're searching for something all the time, you've been put into that bucket. If you like knitting's your thing on Amazon, you're searching for knitting stuff, they're going to be hitting you up with things related to knitting. Or if you're into sports, a certain type of sports, let's say you're into running, they're going to hit you with different running types of things, or maybe other types of sports like hiking or backpacking. Okay. And that fits into the recommendation engine A/B testing. What also AI will do is say, hey, I'm going to present to this, let's say we have a group of people with similar interests. Let's say it's hiking, okay? I'm going to present two different options. So when Bill goes on to Amazon.com, I'm going to show him these hiking shoes. When Susan does, I'm going to show her a hiking backpack, for instance, okay? And which one seems to get more traction? And this is among hundreds, if not thousands, or hundreds of thousands of people, okay? Which one works better? If you can optimize what those people are interested in by doing that AI testing through AI, you might be able to sell more, okay? So it's personalization of the services. Again, this is all AI, stuff that a lot of people don't even really consider. It's more than generative AI. It's optimization of your business, okay? Marketing automation, that's a big aspect. Automate repetitive marketing tasks. I kind of hit on that earlier on, which is essentially if somebody goes to your website and opens up a chat bot, that is actually generative AI, but it's another way of think about it, okay? It's trying to get a customer based on using AI, okay? Process automation is a massive one. Data entry, invoice processing. There are systems right now where you can take a piece of paper and scan it in, and AI will figure, let's say it's an invoice, okay? It'll figure all of the different line items, the totals on them, the grand total, all that kind of stuff, and be able to suck it in and put it into your accounting system. To have a human retype all that stuff, that kind of stuff, that's a big waste these days. If you can automate that, you're better off. Same as with the example of the resumes, right? If you had to go through 1,000 resumes, that's a huge waste of time for a lot of people, right? So think of it that way. Data-driven decision-making is a big one, and that's what a lot of big companies are using these days. And we'll go into that more in just a minute. Inventory optimization is one. If you have a big warehouse full of products, that's you're wasting money. You need to minimize that just in time in terms of your inventory levels. Okay. Any questions so far? Any comments even? Anybody doing any of these type of things who would like to share a little example?
Yeah, can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, part of your definition, you had words. It was really nice. But also understanding that, people from the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to have to know a skill set, be it prompt engineering, specifically the skill set behind how you use AI through the large language model. How you use your voice. Actually, I like using my voice as the typing.
Yes.
To actually get the output you want. So it's all about what's in your mind, what's the output you want, and how do you get it. Now, specifically, I just met Fred. He's dealing with historical biographies, stuff of the family. I would say used case, I think is important for you to explain to us. I mean, I get what it is, but I think it's a really important concept in AI. What is a used case in regards to a business specific? Because that's what it's about. I do behavioral health. All my used cases is going to be around, I don't know, two-parent family, this is the
Yes.
case, but, so
Yeah.
I guess that would be an important part of this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
How we look as businesses to understand what's the use case, prompt engineering.
Yes.
How those goes.
Prompt engineering is a massive subject. We will talk a little bit about the prompt engineering. Who knows what prompt engineering is? It's essentially, stepping an AI through a very specific process to ensure that you get the answers you truly want, not just what the AI is guessing that you want. Those are called hallucinations, which I had mentioned earlier on. If you don't ask the right questions, you're going to get the wrong answers. And AI will literally make something up guessing what you're asking, which is going to end up, so again, it's that garbage in, garbage out. It's not just from the data perspective, feeding garbage into your AI engine, but it's also feeding prompts that are kind of garbage from the perspective of the AI engine. Okay, that's a separate seminar unto itself, but it is very important to understand that aspect of it. This gets a little deeper. This gets into business optimization using AI. And if we take a look at, let's see, make this a little bigger. Like I said, garbage in, garbage out. Imagine you had a consultant who knows everything about your business. You can ask them complex questions, they will find the answer for you in seconds. Wouldn't that be amazing? You have the best consultant in the world at your disposal, and you can say, hey, what is my best-selling products right now that have to do with this particular market in this part of the country? And you're just talking this or maybe typing it out as a prompt. And it can come back and say, hey, this is what's selling, this is what sold last year, this is the trend, all that kind of stuff. Imagine that stuff. You don't have to hire a room full of developers to necessarily get that, okay? You can literally just ask AI a lot of times. Not always. There are some pitfalls to this as well. AI, one of the things about AI is it's not really designed so much to be a calculating engine. So some of these very calculated numbers often will be hallucinated if you're using the wrong engine, the wrong model, I should say, or if you're asking very specific questions about certain math. And we'll get into that a little bit further later. But here are just some often called KPIs, key performance indicators, that businesses use that we might say, hey, what are you guys interested in? What are you trying to improve? What areas? And then we say, how do we get the data? And you might be saying, what do you mean by all this? There are the large language models, which are like the Geminis, the ChatGPTs and stuff, but there's also business-specific language models that you can have for your own business. They're specific to your business. You purchase them, and you can load up your documents, load your data, and now you've got your own little private large language model. We'll be talking about that a little bit more and give some examples as well. Any questions so far? Any other questions? Again, AI is only as good as quality and quantity of the data that is provided. Collect all of the data company-wide in one location. That's probably the hardest part, is getting all that information from your sales and marketing systems, your customer service systems, to your finance systems, to your inventory systems, your ERP systems, sucking all that data into one spot so that the AI or the calculating engine is able to perform what you want it to perform. Okay? Once that is done, you can leverage AI to crunch the data from any business health, trending, predicting, and other business needs. Create a dashboard, simplify the whole process, okay? And be able to ask ad hoc questions to it, okay? A lot of different details about what can be gathered from a large set of data with AI, with a proper AI implemented. So if you can imagine, if you can optimize some of these or do it better than your competition, you will be able to get more customers, retain more customers, make more profit, save money, all those examples that we talked about earlier on. Okay, we'll get into some of the do's. Okay. Business ideas is one thing. You might say, hey, I'm doing my business, but I'm thinking about doing this other thing, right? Whatever that might be. Offering a new product, offering a new service, okay? There are a lot of deep research LLMs right now, ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, there's others. Of course, there's many of them right now. They're all over the place and they're changing so fast, nobody can really keep up with them. The deep research ones are very interesting. Does anybody use the deep research?
Yes.
Yes?
Within the chat.
Yeah, right.
It's awesome.
It's quite incredible.
Make sure all your links are live. That's one of the things, because sometimes the outputs, if you say, okay, give me some resources that's going to link up with the stuff I'm writing about. But those links could be dead links, they're not linked anywhere. But now when you hit the research button, specifically it'll look for live links, it'll know that it doesn't want to give you to a dead end. So then when you use this part as a document, as a resource document, or as content, the person who's going to read it, you know they're not going to go to the dead end. So
yes, it can, these things can...
Numbers incredible.
Yeah, it can live crawl websites, for instance, verify the links like you just mentioned, gather information, crawl an entire website, and give responses on that data specifically. So these things are ever changing. Grok just came out with a new deep research model just within the last day or two. Of course, ChatGPT's as an update. They have updates pretty much weekly at this point.
Sorry.
Yes.
That's by chance, are you aware of one? You know how it's giving you the reasoning, like as it's starting to do that, now it's giving you like its line rationale, right?
Yes,
of how it's thinking.
Yep.
Do you know of one? I know you can't do it in chat, but where you can interrupt it, and then you can see its hallucination as it's happening, and then you can intervene at that time and say, okay,
I'm not aware. Oh, there actually is, I think it might be Perplexity that does that. I think it does have the ability to do that. It says, do you want to proceed? Here's what I think I'm going to do. Do you want me to proceed? Because some of these deep research ones, because of the fact that they can actually gather information from live sites and all this type of stuff, validate, can take not 20 seconds like we're accustomed to, 20 seconds or less, or even a couple of seconds, but they can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes even, if it's a complex question and a complex amount of research. So sometimes you want to, and it's part of prompt engineering as well. Maybe you ask the question poorly, not knowing it, and it said, here's what I think I should do, and you go, I better change that question a little bit. Okay. So again, that's a great do. Go into the deep research and play around. If you've got some business ideas or maybe a different way you might want to market your business, you can go ahead and go into it and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? What does my competition look like? What is the saturation of the market? What is happening? What is trending? That kind of thing. You can ask deep research all these different questions, take those results, compile them, and come up with a strategy. Okay? And the deep research ones literally will look at all these different actual studies, university studies, research institutes. And based on your question, go, okay, I'm going to look at these 20 different research sites or papers or whatever. Am I on the right track? Okay, and proceed from there. So it's pretty incredible, that kind of stuff. Here's one thing that's kind of a little hack. You might want to run some of the results through another AI system, a competing AI system. If you do it on ChatGPT, you might want to take some of those results and then use that as, this is part of the prompt engineering, run those results through a separate AI or a different model for that matter. On this ChatGPT has several models, but I would recommend to actually do it. If you do something on ChatGPT, maybe run through Perplexity, which has can cite the sources, for instance, which we'll show in a minute. And you can kind of fact check and see if there's any hallucination or bias happening within the results. So you really, I'll get into the don'ts in a minute about that as well. Generating marketing content, wow, that is just an amazing thing. You can just essentially tell AI about your business a little bit, tell it about some of your competitors, maybe throw in your marketing materials, your one sheet, or a little blurb about yourself, and it'll spit out a web page on your different products and services that you can use to create your entire web page. You can do it in a few hours. Okay, it's quite amazing. Now, you can also do other fun things. Let's say that you go to networking events, which many of us do. Maybe you want to kind of like formalize that a little bit more. You're not really sure what to say about your business. Maybe what you say about your business isn't understandable to the general population who's not into your business, right? It's kind of like a curse of knowledge kind of a situation. I know so much about my business, I can't even explain it to how people can understand it. So you can actually say, hey, here's what I do for a business, simplify this message for the everyday person, okay? And turn this into a 30-second elevator speech. That can be done in 10 minutes, okay? You can just crank that out, okay? Everybody has some marketing materials. Leverage that stuff that you currently have. Tell it about your competitors. You can research and look at those competitors' sites, and it can say, here's what you can use for your marketing materials, okay? Content ideas is another one which goes right hand in hand with writing a book or blog post. You know your business, but you're like a little bit of writer's block. I want to do some blogging, or I want to put some stuff on Facebook or whatever. I'm not a writer though. Give me some ideas, et cetera, et cetera. You tell it about your business and say, hey, come up with a list of 10 topics that I could talk about in a blog post, okay? Now add to that. Give me 5 bullet points per topic, which is the prompt engineering. Okay, expand upon that. Give me 5 bullet points per area, per blog post, and boom, it'll put all that out. And you might expand upon that. Okay. So generative AI is absolutely fantastic for that. On the other hand, guess what? Just like the images that are generated out of AI, it's real obvious that AI generated those images a lot of times, unless you're paying for a subscription for ones that have a more lifelike look and feel. But a lot of us don't want to pay, a subscription for this fancy generator, so we're just going to use that instead. But it's obvious that you used AI. You didn't use a professional videographer or professional artist to create that content. So you can run generated text through an AI humanizer, such as, essentially that's the term, AI humanizer is a pretty common term for that, to essentially make it not look, the text not look, and the marketing materials not look so, let's say, polished, a little bit more human, okay? So that people just read that and they go, wow, this person is just using AI, and that's a negative. You don't want to, you're supposed to be an expert at your subject, and if you're just using AI to generate all your stuff and people realize that, it's going to have the opposite effect, right? So humanizing it, so it's kind of funny you're using AI against AI. Okay, any questions so far, comments? Okay, let's take a look at some of the don'ts. A lot of mistakes are being made out there. We're going to get into some actual demonstrations here real quick. That's the AI tools, the next section there. For instance, do not load confidential information. Samsung engineers entered confidential software code as well as internal meeting recordings. Can you imagine that? You got a room full of executives and they're all saying how we're going to beat the competition, and that goes into a public LLM.
Wow.
Okay? That's a big mistake. Like I say, though, there are such things as private LLMs, which we'll talk about very, very soon. So you can use it. You can load documents, just remove confidential information and data before you do so, okay? Then, a lot of the confidential information is not really relevant to what you're often trying to accomplish anyway, so you can still use AI, just be careful about that. Do not rely on AI for facts or statistics. AI can hallucinate responses, often getting math and statistics it has a real hard time at, because essentially AI is a predictive model. It predicts the next word in a sentence. The engines themselves are absolutely amazing, but what they try and do is they're more of a prediction engine. They don't necessarily think, although they're getting significantly better. There's some new technology that some of the AI engines are using that can kind of, in a way, think, but it's not quite there yet. Asking AI to total, for an example, asking AI to total the number of people in California based on each county's population. If you can kind of think what that would require, I need to gather all the counties in California, then I need to find out what their population is, then I need to actually compile those numbers and add. That's math, okay? AI is not real good at that. Certain AIs might be, depending on the model again. If they're designed that way, they can be good at it, but the AIs that you see out there, the Geminis, the ChatGPTs, generally are not. Like even something as simple as tell me the number of R's in the word strawberry. It can get that wrong. Now a lot of that's been fixed, but it's just those types of things, okay? So instead, use specific LLM systems that list sources and check the sources directly, like Perplexity. Okay, that one will actually show the sources that you can then check on. We'll look at that in a second. Manually fact check and sanity check the results based on known information. It's just like if your calculator you said 2 + 2, and then you hit enter and it said 5, are you just gonna believe it? You kind of want to believe it because it's a calculator, but no, that's not sane. Something's gone wrong here, okay? So don't just believe AI at all costs. Go, does that make sense? Maybe I need to do some fact checking, some sanity checking, okay? Because AI is absolutely not perfect. It can lead you astray really quickly. One example is, for instance, at the beginning of the presentation, I showed you the different statistics for AI, and I fact checked those because that's something that you don't want to necessarily get wrong, okay? Okay. So one thing is, do not replace legal, financial, medical, and other professionals with AI. Not quite there yet. You don't want to just say, hey, I got this, and I'm going to rely on AI for the rest of for all my important business decisions, legal decisions, medical. I'm going to cure cancer with AI. No, I don't think so. All right. So in other words, you still need to have those professionals, but one thing you can do is get a basic understanding of the data and information using AI. That will make your conversations more productive with those professionals. If you can talk their language, you can kind of see what's going on using AI. Because AI is an incredible tool, but don't trust it 100%. Okay? Any questions about that or comments?
I reached out to do my R&D for the first time, and the application came back and told me I wasn't eligible.
Oh.
Wait till my birthday in December to do an R&D. When I called and spoke to the employee, she went to their chat box, apparently, and gave me word for word the exact same answer they'd given me.
Amazing.
Wrong.
Right. So they're using AI as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that's interesting. So the human person is actually, for their answers, just typing in the same question and just reading verbatim what their AI chatbot is responding with. That's interesting.
What I think that's really kind of one of the don'ts, right, is basically don't be lazy with it. I had a colleague recently who I could tell that an article was written almost just straight from AI, right? So obviously we can use it, but you want to check it, modify it, personalize it,
Yeah.
as you said before.
Yeah.
I think that's really one of the don'ts is don't be lazy with it.
Yeah. And if you're gonna, there's a big aspect of this. If, the number of people creating content these days based on AI has gotten pretty large. So the content has doubled just because it's so easy to create content, which commoditizes that whole thing and makes it not really worth anything to anybody because your information doesn't have any nuance to it, okay? Your AI article has no nuance to it. It's just essentially repeating what has been fed before, okay? So if you are truly a professional and a consultant or an expert in your field, it may actually backfire to just try and use AI to create these marketing materials. You need to have your specific advantage built into that article, or else it's not worth much and it can backfire because you're going to look like everybody else out there because of the nature of AI. Yes, Anita?
One of the things that I do that I think is effective is I'll write the draft and then put it in ChatGPT.
Absolutely.
Say, hey, can you punch this up or tell
Yep.
whatever, and then that way you get your originality, and then it also fixes maybe some grammar and concise, or
Yes.
whatever you needed to do. So
Absolutely. That is probably the best advice I would give as well, is you write it first and then use it to tweak, okay? Get some of your original ideas in there, stress certain areas, and make it actually something that's worthwhile. It's very simple. Generate content using AI, but make it worth something to you or your customers.
And it learns, and so if you write enough, and in your field you write a lot, it can learn your voice, and you can ask it to write in your voice.
it's kind of creepy.
Okay, so Perplexity, I've mentioned that a couple of times. It's a search engine that uses large language models to answer queries using sources from the web and cites links with the text within the text responses. Why would you use it over ChatGPT? It's when you want to prioritize accuracy and see the sources. Okay, so I'm going to jump into Perplexity right now, and I might say, oh boy, auto-suggest. So here it came out with what looks like a pretty good response, okay? Now what you'll see down here is the sources, okay? So even though this listed all this out, 22 and probably more not showing here, that's awesome information, but do I know it's correct? I don't know 100%, but what I can do is fact check, given the fact that I have these links down here, that when I click on them, it'll actually open it up. So you can fact check. Perplexity allows that. Not all versions of the AI chatbots do that type of thing, okay? So this is what I was talking about earlier. Perplexity is good for that. Accurate research-based information with clear source attribution, great for web scraping and sourcing as well. There's other ones such as Grok is very good for that as well. And here you can see deep search. And also you have the think icon, if you can see that down there. So that adds a little bit. Who knows exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but they're trying to say, we're going to do our best to actually look at your question, reason it out, research it real time, and sort this stuff out for you. And often questions will can take a little bit of time to answer. Oops. And so that's a little bit small, but essentially it's going to try and answer that. If you choose think down here or deep research, it might take a little bit longer. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the details, but you get the idea. Okay, Perplexity. Yeah, that's a good one for Perplexity. Let's do that one.
Kevin, are you going to do what you did in Connection, showing the
Yes.
presentation? Awesome. That was really tough.
So you can see this is taking a little longer, but Perplexity is actually doing more work. It's not just for the person who wants a quick answer. It's more like, I'm doing some research, I'm doing this, I'm trying to accomplish whatever. But you can also use this on something like, help me define my competitors at, whatever your website is. Provide 3 competitors and their URLs. Like I was mentioning earlier on, if you want to create an article or create some marketing materials, this is a great way to do it. Crawl our website and select 3 reasons why a potential customer would buy our products. As you can see, that's pretty powerful as well. Sometimes as business owners or people working in the business, you get kind of like a little bit of blinders on. You don't see the bigger picture sometimes because that's what you've been accustomed to. And so this can help open your thinking up a little bit. Think about different markets, different customers, way to present your marketing materials, etc. Okay. Now, Claude AI is an interesting one for, and as I mentioned here, you can take these details and put it into Claude AI. It's good for complex reasoning, in-depth writing, summarizing information, and I will be sending out details of this so you don't have to write all this stuff down necessarily. But Claude AI is a good one for actually, I guess I don't have a link to it right now, but it's just another AI engine that has its own training, its own strengths, potentially weaknesses, okay? But it's good it's good to use for creating marketing materials and that type of stuff. So, okay, so there's that. So for instance, what you could do is actually take your marketing materials, load it into Claude, as what it asks you, whatever. You say, hey, here's my marketing materials, paste it. What do you think? Whatever. So it can do that. It can give you suggestions, okay? I'm gonna get into Notebook LM here a little bit. This is an interesting one. This is fun. And people who know Anita, this is part of her project. It's what she does. She does Poway Living Mag. And what I've done here with this is to explain what's going on here. This is, remember what I mentioned about having your own little LLM or your own little workspace? That's what this is. This is a Google product called Notebook LM, okay? It allows you to load your own documents in there. Let's say that you're a lawyer and you want to say, hey, I want to come up with a new general services agreement for my clients. You could take 20 years worth of general services agreements, literally 2,000 different general services agreements that you've worked on over the years, feed them into this engine and say, come up with a better one. And we'll take a look at all 2,000 different documents. That looks good, compare it to this, compare it to that. Boom, and here's a new one. That's more comprehensive, it's worded better, all that type of stuff, okay? Of course, you'd want to still fact check that and review it to make sure it really meets your needs, but that's what this can do. In other words, you're not looking at the universe of the World Wide Web and all the information out there. You're saying, get specific. This is about me, not about the world, okay? So what have I done here?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is that different than when you can make actually a GPT, your own customized one within chat? Or is that the same?
It's a little different, yeah. You'll see what happens here when so what I've done with this particular example is just I have 4 different, and what you'll see here is, this is an example of Anita's Poway Living. Many of us have seen this publication. For instance, this was, I'm not sure which month, January 2024. So articles about people, there's advertisers, Poway Integrity. We've got Poway, Happy New Year. Behind the scenes, here's the 2 Anitas right there. And other advertisers, Meet the Experts, and then there's specific articles about the Howe family, for instance, what's happening in the community, all this interest that we have here in Poway. Okay, so that's all that we have going on right here. We have 3 of these magazines, okay? What do we have down here? This is a screen capture. I'll do a little preview of it here, but it's a screen capture of Poway Living. So of course, Poway Living has a Facebook page which lists, Anita does posts with information about the advertiser, what's going on in the community. Here's Mr. B. He was the martial arts instructor for my two boys, as a matter of fact, among other things. So we'll consider that as well, okay? So we're going to close that back up. So that's all that is. It's a screen capture. I just went into that web page and captured a bunch of the posts as an image, okay? Not necessarily text, it's an image, a PDF as a matter of fact. And then I did this thing, this is made up data, which is called subscriber demographics. And this is a list of thousands of different subscriber demographics, completely made up, has nothing to do with reality or probably livings. But what you can see here, this is very small text, but age, sex, household income, education level, marital status, occupation, race, ethnicity, homeowner, yes or no, number of children, among other things. Demographic data, okay? And so you can see that this gives me a little bit of a feel. This gives the LLM a little bit of a feel for what I'm all about, okay? And it'll even do like a little, so what I'm gonna do here, it'll do a little summary of what it found out so far, okay? So I'm gonna say, you remember my demographics? This is a tough one, by the way. Create a list of the occupation and number of occurrences. Remember what I said earlier on about doing math and stuff like that? So this may or may not work, and it may take a while, and it might even say, can't do it, okay? And this is another one, this is one I'm showing this for a specific reason, is because I wouldn't trust this, okay? It's complicated, okay? But guess what? Statistician, student, 193, archaeologist, 4, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. I would definitely fact check this, okay?
And then you can have it rank it from the highest number of mentions to the least number of
Yes,
mentions.
yes, and you can do that. You can expand upon it. Yes, you can prompt engineer to a certain extent or expand upon your original question. So what's interesting here is that NASA employee, look at all the NASA employees we have here, one of them. But handyman we have 2, and it actually comes up with, and it'll show you where that may have come from, okay? Oh, you know what? What I should have done, I meant to do this, but this says check which source you're actually looking at. That's why I actually caused it to hallucinate a little bit, because I wasn't looking at my, so I can choose, you know, I would want to unselect all these other things because really I just care about the demographics. What it did was it actually looked into my other documents as well, causing unexpected results, okay? So now that I've selected only one, I should get more accurate data without all the extra garbage involved, okay? So here I can see that I have students, 193 of them. When I click on it, let's see here. Archaeologists, and so you can see where it actually goes in and says, it's kind of saying, hey, this is where I got the information of, here's my proof. So it's citing the location, okay? That's pretty neat stuff. I'm getting a little on time, so I'm gonna try and crank this up a little bit. So this is a complicated one as well. Provide a list of the advertisers, the total number of times they have advertised, and the total number of column inches, okay? Now, of course, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna unselect anything that's not the magazine, the three issues, okay? And I'm going to try and run that. Just to be clear, what it's doing is it's actually looking at these PDFs. Okay, it's not looking at a data, it's looking at literally the PDFs and going, oh, I got an advertiser right here, Halcyon right here. I've got this advertiser, I got this advertiser, and it looks at all those 3. Now this could be literally 5 years worth of the magazine issues. Okay, right now we're just looking at 3. Okay, so we're gonna see what we came up with. And here we are. Based on the sources, here are the list of the advertisers. I know this is kind of small. McLean Photography, advertised 3 times, estimating 15 column inches. Okay? Isn't that amazing? It's just looking at these PDFs. It's looking at graphics. It's looking at, literally looking at, you know, how many column inches. Here I've got, you know, 2 column inches or whatever for Halcyon. Okay? Here I've got maybe 4 column inches. quite amazing stuff. So that gives you a little indication of what you could potentially, or you can load your own documents up and have it figure this out for you. And this is my last example before we jump out of here and do something else that's fun. So this next one, I am going to get rid of my subscriber demographics. We're going to have my different issues, and then I'm also going to have my screen capture from Facebook. Why do I care about that? Because I have, Poway Living has, for instance, a certain way that they post and certain hashtags that they use, all that type of thing. Okay? So now I've given that engine enough information to try and sort this out. Again, this question is, following the style of how we post on Facebook, create a Facebook post for a popular advertiser, it's just going to pick one. Be sure to mention how they support the community and add the appropriate hashtags. Wouldn't that be fun if that worked? So here we have, I'm just going to, I know this is kind of small. Get ready to share the dance and the romance this month with Fred Astaire Dance Studios, Carmel Mountain Ranch. We love seeing how Fred Astaire Dance Studios helps our community connect and enhance their relationship through the joy of dance. Here's an attribution right here. They offer an introductory dance lesson deal for new clients, making it easier forever to step into the dance floor. No partner required. It's more than just learning to dance. It's about building a more intimate bond with your special someone, etc., etc. Hashtag Poway Living, Carmel Mountain Ranch, Fred Astaire Dance Studios, etc., etc. Isn't that amazing? It looked at all the hashtags from Facebook that have been used. It looks at the issues, sorted that out, and in a couple of seconds came out with this. And if you wanted to say top advertisers, or say, you could ask it questions like, show me some advertisers who have not, let's say you had 5 years worth of publications, who have not advertised within the last year, and sort it by whatever, right? Fun stuff. So this is one of the most powerful things that is pretty much, you can get this for free now. Students are using, don't show this to your kids if you have kids, because they'll use it for their homework, all right? They'll just load up all their online documents and create my book report, you know. But my sons actually use this in college and high school. So that's fun stuff. Okay, any questions? Okay.
Great examples. Yeah.
Next thing we're going to look at is Gamma, okay? And remember how I said earlier, I don't have a presentation, but what we're going to do is Gamma is really an interesting little, oops, let me double check here. Import file or URL. Okay, so here we have, I've already uploaded this file. It's called AI for Business, which is based on my AI for Business document. What I just did, save a little time, I downloaded this ahead of time and then uploaded it to this. So this is my presentation, okay? So I'm gonna say I wanna create a presentation. And I might say, text content, I'm going to condense it down a little bit. Max test per, I'm going to say detailed, output language, images, format, whatever it might be. I'm just going to use the defaults. Here we have 8 cards. I'm going to go up to 9 cards, and I'm going to run this. Now pay attention if this all works. Okay. And I'm going to say, what title do I want? Pick a theme. Generate.
Wow.
Now that's pretty amazing if you ask me. How it actually can create graphics based on your content. Make it look all fancy.
So we could be looking at this whole time.
Yes. You got the point. You got the point. Thank you.
So someone who hasn't created a PowerPoint before, didn't know how, basically
They still
doesn't
don't know
need
how.
to anymore.
They still don't know.
Yeah.
Is this
Or
the
has done it.
paid one?
This is free.
This is free too.
Does it let you edit it?
Yes. Okay. Okay, so also you go, okay, great, now I got it. What if I just, woke up late and I needed to create a presentation? I didn't prepare, but I had all my notes. I did this in what, less than a minute? And I can actually click on present and away we go. Okay.
Does this one let you load, for instance, like your branding, Pantone?
Yeah, you can edit. You can edit. I'm not sure about the Pantones, but you can add a lot of information, and it will sort that out. And also, you can edit this after the fact too. Okay. So now, literally in that 1 minute, I have a presentation which looks pretty good. It's got the graphics, a fun graphic, looks like all scientific and whatnot. This interesting graphic just breaks things up. Remember how ugly my notes were? It was all jammed together and
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yes, right. Yes, thank you, appreciate it. So again here, having some of these graphics and all these are auto-generated are specific to, and look at this, metrics. Wow, how it nailed that, right? So do's and don'ts, put them side by side as opposed to separates like I had. Recommend it, broke that up as well. Additional tools, key takeaways, which we haven't even got to yet. But essentially, you can see how fun that is, right?
Let's jump into those key takeaways, however you want to do that
Yep,
real quick.
and we're pretty much done. Okay, I have other AI tools here, which we're not going to get into too much. Sudowrite, sudowrite.com is an interesting one if you're looking to write some stuff. It has what's called a canvas. Syllabi.io makes videos. That's super neat. Jasper AI is a paid-for service, so they have a free version as well for creating marketing materials. Okay, among other things. Key takeaways, have fun with that. AI adoption is being driven by reducing cost, customer service.
Laziness.
Absolutely. One thing is that you have something like an ERP, SaaS products, whatever it might be. A lot of these things have this built into it and they're task specific. For instance, something like QuickBooks is going to have some AI built into it that is actually built to handle statistics and finances and stuff like that. Their online version. AI is all about data, does not come without risks, or acting like a Wild West trying to get data into everyone's hands. Don't just release this to everybody in your organization, try and just, that's like, oh, everybody can benefit from this, but some people it's a distraction more than a benefit. You have to look at the use case. What are you trying to actually accomplish? Why are you doing this? All right? That's where consultants come in and say, like people like me and B2 Software, we consult and go in, what are you really trying to accomplish? Not just, let me give you all these AI tools and have fun with it. That's actually a little bit of a mistake because it can be more distracting. You could be using the wrong tools. You're not really looking at what you're trying to accomplish. You're just looking at almost general research to a certain extent, which isn't a good way to approach things. So AI will level the playing field, allowing average employees to be smart, and again, that caveat where it's specific to what the purpose of that person is. Allow marketing's purchases to use all of the information in the box can be leveraged. So in some cases, AI can be used to allow average employees to replace consultants and experts to a certain extent. Okay, and here's my contact information. If you're interested in talking further about any of this type of stuff, be happy to answer your questions. Any questions, any comments even, any big wins, anything that people really love about, something that we haven't covered? Yes, Mr. Farmer.
Question I have, it relates to my legacy video interviews. And if I were to utilize AI to transcribe one of my videos,
Yes.
Would their information be in the AI universe where anyone would have access to any of that information?
Yeah, it would be a risk. If you consider it confidential information, I wouldn't put it out into a general tool. There are tools that are you pay for them often, and they will keep your information private. Otherwise, there is a risk. It's not a huge risk, but it is a risk, right? You would never put, if you were a doctor, you would never put patient information, for instance, into your, hey, I got this, you know, Bill Smith, my patient Bill Smith, age 47, living in Poway, California, has these symptoms, and, you know, that's a HIPAA violation to begin with, but also it's risky, yeah. Yeah, so you got to be careful, you know, like the one I showed you, Notebook LM, it's going to keep that more private. Paid for versions, you got to look at their privacy statements, okay? I can't say blanket anyway, yes or no. You have to look at, well, what am I trying to accomplish? This tool looks good, you have to do your due diligence. This tool looks like what I'm trying to accomplish, what is its privacy policy? And it's going to tell you whether if you load, generally it's going to tell you if you load something in there, does it stay within your box or does it go out into the ether where it can be used for training purposes of its own AI? Okay, so that's some of the due diligence you have to do.
I haven't offered that service yet, that's why
Yeah.
I want to do my research before I even.
Certainly. That's a very valid concern. Anita?
Can you touch on any AI providers that will create video content?
Yes. This one right up here called Syllabi, make videos with AI actors following a script. You can also have it upload, you can upload a photo of yourself or a couple of photos or a video, and it will take that likeness and create a video for you. It's quite amazing, yes. Some of these get to really get the, if you're going to use it on a regular basis, the paid for version is going to give you more functionality, smoother, you know, better results overall.
So kind of in the same vein as Fred's, but sort of on the other end, if you are using this content that's being generated, are there any concerns for copyright or intellectual property, anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why you want to use something, you know, for instance, something that shows you the sources. So Perplexity, when I gave that little example, you can see where it said, okay, this is where I got this information about the counties in California, and this is the source it came from, and if that source, for instance, is copyrighted, if it's from government information, you're not going to have to worry about the copyright, but if it's generally, but if you have, you know, if it's somebody's private organizations and you can only use with permission, of course, you have to be concerned about that. Again, that's the due diligence aspect of checking the sources. Yes, Anita?
I put in several of my systems, like my welcome letter to new clients, and I took what I already had, put it in there and asked it to make it better, change this, change that, condense this, add that. And when I got done, it was a beautiful document that was very detail-oriented for my clients. So that's my favorite way to use it right now, is what I already have and making it better.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. That's absolutely. You start with something that is your own, and then you just improve upon it using AI. You don't expect it to do all your work for you, which is going to generally end in a disaster, something that is very, very generic and really doesn't fulfill your needs or your customers' needs. But if you start with what makes you unique, what makes your business unique, and have AI supplement that, that's a great way to approach it.
So Kevin, when we use any of these, especially the free ones, we're essentially still teaching, helping it learn, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly what happens behind the scenes, but by their very nature, they're a large language model, and they're trying to learn and do a better job. So it's hard to say exactly what's happening, but certainly everything that's out in the ether of the World Wide Web and anything that other people are feeding it could potentially be part of that LLM, okay? And again, it's garbage in, garbage out. And that's more from a perspective of if I have my own personal one and I put statistics in there, or let's say subscriber statistics like I showed, but it was just a bunch of, let's say it was incomplete. That's a huge aspect. Having your own little private LLM to help your business out, I think, is a huge thing. The fact that it's pretty much free, next to free, the fact that you can, just like the example I showed, where you can actually load that data and with a more scientific, statistical, mathematical ones, you can actually have it crunch some numbers appropriately. Keeps it private for the most part. Again, you got to look at, do your due diligence on that, but also you can leverage that information with a big caveat of you got to make sure that you have no bias in the data. It's garbage in, garbage out, which is one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they just put a bunch of stuff in there, but it's only part of the picture, okay? If you put in only the sales data and not the marketing materials, or what, because it's cause effect, right? You marketed this way and you got these number of sales. If you only show it the sales, you're really not getting the whole picture, for instance. Or if you just show the sales for California as opposed to the United States or the world, it's only part of the picture. Just like in scientific research, some scientists might have a theory and then cherry pick the data. You want to stay away from that at all, if at all possible, because garbage in, garbage out, okay? That is why when I mentioned the aspects of the modern competitive advantages data, that is why, because the first thing is to make sure that you've got all the data and that it's complete data, that you're not leaving some stuff out. And the more data, the better. AI, LLMs, all that stuff uses data to learn. The more data, the more accurate the data, the better the results are going to be.
What's the feedback mechanism on any of these? I mean, like,
that happens.
Hey, that was great, or that was crap.
That happens generally behind the scenes in the people who are creating the models. Okay. Again, it's just like my little example here. If a baby is learning English, who knows how the brain works, but essentially it's a reward mechanism to a certain extent. There's no necessarily reward mechanism in the computer system, but it's essentially you got it right or you didn't get it right, okay? And that's very complicated stuff. It's been said that there's nobody in the world who actually knows all the ins and outs of how that AI neural network actually works and how it's coming up with those decisions, because it's incredibly complex.
Well, they don't know if you used their suggested article or blog. They don't know. You may be like, well, that was dumb. I'm not using that. It doesn't know that you weren't going to use it, or that you checked and it wasn't accurate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
There's no user feedback.
That is correct, yes.
Unless you can paste it out. You can ask chat to cite the sources for you, and you can decide to what extent those sources are the best sources or the most accurate.
But it doesn't know whether or not you used its results.
It doesn't know, it doesn't have necessarily that feedback loop, like, yes, great answer, thank you, ChatGPT.
5 stars?
Yeah,
1 star.
but at the same time, a lot of times with the prompt engineering aspect of it, it'll actually say, if you want to follow up or that kind of stuff. There is some
So no answer.
Yeah. So there is some of that going on. It's subtle and not always used by everybody, but there is some of that going on. But a lot of it happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see any of these entities merging down the road?
The merging?
As far as AI providers?
Yeah, there's going to be a reckoning, for sure.
So many.
Yes. Certainly other ones are going to, there's going to have some strength. There's going to be, people are going to make mistakes. Here's the thing too, is right now there's a lot of gates being put, it has been, because you know that there are certain questions you can't ask AI, right? So in other words, there's gates around what the response can be, okay? Some companies stretch that a little bit. Some companies keep those gates nice and tight, like Google, for instance. They've learned by mistakes they've made, and they've been around long enough to realize that we need to put some pretty strong gates around there, or else we might put something out there that might be not appropriate. So some companies will not put the right gates around there. That's just one aspect of this whole thing. Obviously, there's going to be some mergers, acquisitions, types of things as well. Some of these companies are funded, and they're going to run out of funding. So much of this stuff is, how much does it cost? It's free. That's hard to make money when everything's free, okay? So there's certainly going to be a reckoning. There's going to be, so that's why you've got to kind of like use a variety of them, and if something really works for you, maybe consider subscribing to it, which is going to help them improve and that kind of thing too. But yeah,
A big hand for Mr. Kevin Gyberg.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned. We're going to do more of these. As you can tell, this dialogue is evolving, as is AI. So, Kevin, we appreciate you. We will have more of these presentations, so stay tuned. We do also want your feedback. I know a bunch of us are thinking of a bunch of different ways we could go with this, more content. So stay tuned. We will be providing more. And thank you again to Kevin Gyberg, V2 Software.